Today, we're talking more about the debacle at MetLife Stadium yesterday as the Bills destroy the Jets and drop the Jets to a record of 2-7. The Mike White era is probably over as Zach Wilson is hopefully set to return against the Miami Dolphins. We're going to talk Jets, going to talk about the coaching staff, and so much more. And today, my guest, he's been on the show a bunch. We love having him. His name is Robby Sabo. He covers the New York Jets for JetsXFactor.com. He was up in the press box watching this debacle yesterday at MetLife Stadium, and Robby's here to provide some perspective on all of it. Robby, appreciate the time as always, my man. How are you?
I'm okay, other than, watching that terrible football yesterday. I mean, listen, it's one thing if, and I understand where Jets fans are coming from. They just want to see competitive football where players are developing, but it's not happening in terms of individual coaching points. Everyone's trying to be a hero. They're not maintaining individual, responsible reads that lead to the greater good. And the devil's in the details. So other than yesterday, I'm doing pretty good. How about you, Jake?
Yeah, no doubt, man. I went on a rant to open the post-game show yesterday here on the channel. I did not expect a win, Robby, but the fact of the matter is the way this team has been getting blown out in so many of the losses this year, that to me is just unacceptable. It's a huge concern, and it's really frustrating. Like, obviously, we know this is a rebuilding year for the Jets. Obviously, they are certainly depleted defensively with all the injuries, but it just seems like this team is making the same mistakes. It seems like they lack adjustments, and, you wrote a great piece at JetsXFactor.com just highlighting the issues that this team has from a schematic standpoint, and you could put a lot of that on coaching. So let's kind of start there. What do you make of this coaching staff right now, specifically the defensive side of the ball?
Well, I mean, I'm concerned. Number one, yes, they're wrecked by injuries, but every NFL team is. And yeah, they got hurt with Lawson and Curry, and, Douglas and Saleh tried to do the right thing by doubling up the D line and going 8 deep. Was really looking forward to seeing those guys. And now JFM's out of position. But at the same time, like I said, the devil's in the details. You still got guys like Quinnen Williams, CJ Mosley, John Franklin Myers, Bryce Hall. I like Michael Carter II. I like Rankins is an excellent third IDL interior guy. So with those names, it shouldn't be this bad. A perfect example of not, reading individual responsible reads. You hear from Belichick all the time, do your job, right? That's one thing, other than on to whatever the city is next game. That's the one thing he preaches constantly, because if you do your job and you take care of your job, it goes to the greater good of the entire defensive unit. And right now, guys aren't doing it. That end around to Emmanuel Sanders to start the second half, where Buffalo went 5 plays, drove it right down their throat. It was a nice play, nice design. The fullback pivoted to come around. The guards pulled the other way. But if Wilson, the safety, and Bryce Hall are just reading their guys the way they're sealing, they should have been in position to take care of it. Yet Bryce Hall, who I hate getting on because I love Bryce Hall and he's been great this year, one of the Jets defenders that doesn't deserve it, just didn't do it. And it leads to hero ball where everyone's out of position, trying to do too much. And it was mostly evident yesterday and in Indy.
Robby Sabo is joining us here. If you're new to the channel, I ask that you subscribe and help us continue to grow. I can't actually reach fully over here because we have a guest on the screen, but hit that red subscribe button that helps this channel grow. Thanks to everyone who took time to watch yesterday's post-game video. Now over 8,000 subscribers here on the channel. So I want to thank the Jet fan for coming out and supporting despite the debacle that we all had to sit through yesterday. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, like this video down below. Thank you for supporting the channel. Robby, I want to talk more just about the specifics of this game yesterday, right? Like, Robert Saleh after the game is asked, well, how come you don't use Bryce Hall more in coverage specifically to follow Stephon Diggs? And his answer is, well, we don't really do that with our scheme. That's not something we do. To me, that's a major red flag, because to me, the great coaches, they take the talent they do have and they find a way to make it work and scheme a game plan that puts the team in the best possible position for success. Saleh's talked about how his defensive scheme is supposed to get better over time. He takes pride in that. Well, that's not happening. So when I hear Saleh say these things, to me, it's a red flag that this team can't make any adjustments. And I'm not saying fire the guy. I'm not saying that he can't turn things around and end up being a good head coach, but we're kind of at a pivotal point in his rookie year where this defense has been so bad. 175 points allowed these last 4 games. He has to show us something. This coaching staff has to show us something. They got to figure this out because it's as bad as I've ever seen a Jets defense right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% correct. It's adaptability, it's stubbornness. Every head coach, every football coach has to have a certain element of stubbornness to be good. You need that, but it can't be to a point where you're not lifting your personnel. And the Jets personnel needs lifting because Bryce Hall's clearly the number one guy. And Guidry's coverage on Diggs, down near the goal line, the one that made it 17-3, was actually pretty decent. But again, he's a slot corner by trade. He just came in for Eccles, who got injured. It's not a great matchup. So, if Saleh had Deion Sanders, would he do the same thing? Would he leave Deion left side no matter who was opposite him? Randy Moss, Jerry Rice? That's the stubbornness part of it. There's also the accountability part of it. Crowder fumbles, what was it, a couple games ago? The Cincy game, they overcame it. Corey Davis, big spot. Mike White climbs the pocket nicely. And we'll get to Mike White. Obviously, he definitely gets an F, but his first half was a little better than I think people think based on what was happening downfield. But I'm not saying bench Corey Davis. I'm not saying that has to happen, but the thought that it could happen is important to me in terms of accountability. And I don't think that thought permeates throughout the locker room or on the sideline. And I think that's a problem. So, yeah, I agree with Saleh. These guys are professionals. You have to trust them. The locker room's a family. But even families need a leader to set an accountability tone. And I just don't think that's there right now.
Let's talk about the quarterback. Obviously, the Mike White era was a lot of fun, but I think there were a lot of people that were just irrational with their thoughts on what this was going to be. Like, to me, Mike White, I was rooting like hell for him to play well, but in the back of my mind going into this game, I wasn't going to be surprised if something like what we saw yesterday happens. It's unfortunate, but to me, the only positive I personally could come up with from that, Robbie, is that there's no quarterback controversy. That if Zach Wilson is healthy, and I think he will be, he should start the last 8 games of the season. They need him to get reps, get experience, get better. What did you make of Mike White yesterday? And the question on the screen is the Mike White era over now?
To me, it's over. Unless Zach experiences a setback. Like I said, I kind of alluded to, I think he played a little better than the final box score indicates with the 4 picks. He deserves an F grade. But that first half, he was actually doing some good things in terms of taking what was available underneath, climbing the pocket, hitting Corey Davis on that post against the cover 3. The Buffalo Bills coverage is the best in the league, and they disguise it extremely well. Mike White has an idea pre-snap. He's confident post-snap because he understands it. He has it in between the ears. It's just the physical ability compared to Zach Wilson. So I think that's the limitation. I don't think there was any problem with starting him this game. If Zach Wilson wasn't 100%, he was practicing in full. So whether he was 100% or not is a great question. But to your point, I think it's over. And it mainly served as a sort of a distraction from what the real issue is, which is something is amiss with this coaching staff right now.
No doubt. Something's certainly missing with the defensive side of the ball, as we talked about. Going forward with the quarterback situation, if Zach's healthy, he certainly should play. There's 8 games left. The schedule coming up, presents a lot of winnable games. You only got to play the Bills one more time, but the next 6 games that are coming up on the Jets schedule, you have the Dolphins, you have Houston, you have Philly, you have New Orleans, you have Jacksonville. Like, the Jets have no excuse not to figure things out and play a lot better down the stretch. Because, Robbie, I don't think this team's going 2-15, but specifically with the quarterback situation now, like, what do you want to see from Zach Wilson when he comes back? Do you think he can maybe have benefited from sitting back and watching this offense these last 3 games?
Absolutely. And I think the offense is going to continue making strides moving forward. We're all wrong sometimes, often, all of us who make proclamations about the Jets, about the NFL. But the one thing I did get right going into the season is I thought the defense would struggle big time, and I thought the offense would be good. Um, it hasn't been good. It's been picking up steam as of late. Yesterday put a halt to that. But Zach Wilson getting back in there with AVT growing. I don't know what's going on with Becton. We'll see what the O line, what happens with the O line. Maybe the good doctor at right guard, takes over for Van Roten. We'll see. Again, it comes down to an accountability via production thing. Does Saleh, does LaFleur make that move? I think Wilson could do some damage. I just, when you were talking about this schedule there, I shuddered to think what Brady's going to do in MetLife. What is it, the week 17, I think? He might put up 85.
Yeah, hopefully they don't need the game at that point, and it's not Brady playing. But I mean, here's the schedule, right? Home against the Dolphins next week. The Jets are a
Mhm.
slight underdog at home in Houston on November 28th. The game I'm looking forward to being at and hopefully seeing a healthy Zach Wilson play well. Then you have after the Texans, you play the Eagles at home, the Saints at home, at Miami, home against the Jaguars. Let's be real. The Jets never win all the games they're supposed to, so I'm not saying they're going to win all those games. But I mean, this team better show some signs of life here. Like the defense has been playing at an unacceptable rate, but at least to the offense's credit, LaFleur, since he's moved up to the booth, has shown you that he's a competent play caller, right? So I think if Zach Wilson comes back and plays well, the perception of this team will be drastically different from the fan base. Because right now, this fan base is as low as it's ever been. They're seeing this team get blown out again. It feels like it's Adam Gase all over again with the blowouts. And Zach Wilson, hopefully coming back and playing well, could change the feeling that is around this fan base right now.
Yeah, and more importantly, they need something good to happen in the locker room at Florham Park. They just need something to feel good about. Right now, there's just nothing good. Fan base, locker room, playing for one another. That's the problem. And what does it take to solve that? Again, it falls on the coaching staff. It falls on Joe Douglas too. So I don't know. It's tough to put into words at times. But to your point, they could win, 4, 5, 6 games by the time it's all said and done. And is it a bad thing or a good thing when looking forward to the draft next year? Listen, you want draft position, but I think wins and feeling good about the future in that organization, in that locker room goes a long way as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm really sick and tired of hearing people be like, "Oh, just lose and get a better draft pick." They've
Yeah,
done that for how many years? It doesn't matter. If Joe
it
Douglas is
does.
a good GM, he'll be able to find talent no matter where the Jets are picking. Mekhi
Yeah.
Becton was the 11th pick in the draft. Like they traded up to get AVT. Like they have 7 picks in the first 4 rounds, including 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks. Draft picks are nice, but a good GM can find talent no matter where you're picking, and they need to win games. Zach Wilson's got to play well down the stretch and win games. You want to change the culture? You want to
Yeah.
be looked at as not a laughing stock? Win
Yeah.
some games against some winnable opponents down the stretch. I couldn't
Yeah.
agree more.
It goes through it permeates throughout the entire league. If things are rolling and things are positive and optimistic, it reaches different parts of the league and they see it. And this is not the NBA. The thing with tankathon and tanking for draft picks, I think it's more of a social media thing where the NBA and NFL have become intertwined on social media. But the NBA and NFL couldn't be more different. The NBA, it does matter because one player makes a drastic difference. But in the NFL, yeah, quarterback's important, no question, but it just doesn't matter in the NFL in the grand scheme.
Totally agree. Now, as far as just some players I wanted to talk about here, you mentioned one of them, Corey Davis. That fumble yesterday was like a microcosm of his whole season. He was really good week 1, and I give him credit for that. But there's been a lot of drops, and overall, I mean, he's been disappointing. Like I understand he's been hurt, but when he's been out there, there's been too many drops. And that fumble yesterday at the end of the half, I mean, any momentum the Jets did have to maybe get back in the game, it was gone in that moment. What have you made of his first season with the Jets so far?
I mean, he has talent. We all see it. He was a fifth overall pick for a reason. But again, the offense struggles. The offense's struggles coincided with his return. There was that pick on the miscommunication where he was pretty much running an in cut on a curl, and White expected him to come straight back for the ball. I got to see the play again. At first, my instant reaction was I understood why he drifted inside based on the coverages, based on the coverage. But he's been up and down. He's been hit and miss. It's kind of the same way with a lot of these former first round picks where Douglas was hedging his bets on, let's get the talent, let's hope they haven't hit their ceiling yet, where they didn't meet expectations in their original home, but they may do so with us. Jared Davis has not been good at linebacker. He's looked slow on that one touchdown. I forgot who it was in the flat. He sought contact with Diggs. I don't know why. Uh, Corey Davis up and down. He has talent, but not a true number one.
It's interesting because at 2-7, with the way the Jets have played in a lot of these losses, the fan base is rightfully upset and feeling like this team is not trending in the right direction. But that's why these last 8 games are so important, because if they end up with 6 wins, let's say, Robbie, and they end up with 4 more wins, and I had them at 6-11 before the year started, like that'd be a step in the right direction towards building on something going into the 2022 offseason, where you have all these picks, salary cap flexibility, and year 2 of Wilson, year 2 of Saleh, and you expect, growth from those guys. So like this stretch coming up here is so important to define what this season is, because going into the year, I think every Jet fan was willing to be patient, understanding they're starting over. It's a new regime, but it's the fact that they're getting blown out in these losses. That's why the fan base is so upset. So these 8 games coming up, it's so important for them to win some of them, obviously, but enough with the blowouts. Like, it's on this coaching staff to figure out why this team, when they lose, they get just absolutely demolished, like what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, what does it mean that they beat the Titans and the Bengals, 2 winning teams, and get blown out in every other game? Is that, an indication of, bad coaching? Is it talent and the coaching lifting the talent? I prefer the first one. I think it's more the first one where the coaching is still figuring itself out, because to your point, yes, you want to see good things happen. You want to see wins pile up, but you also want to see less of a laissez-faire attitude. They're not buttoned up. It's the best way I can describe it. They're not buttoned up. They're not clear in their individual responsibilities, especially on defense. And that is a huge thing defensively. The best way to play selflessly defensively is to play selfishly and take care of your sole responsibility. And they're just not doing that right now.
I went off yesterday in the post-game video on the Jets defensive line. I think they are vastly overrated. I understand that they don't have Carl Lawson. I understand that Vinny Curry, who was going to be a depth piece, is not there. But I'm sorry. Like, this defensive line, Robert Saleh is telling Joe Buck and Troy Aikman 10 days ago that it's the best group he's coached. I mean, give me a break. This defensive line is absent too many times. John Franklin Myers gets the contract. Where's he been? Quinn Williams, you want to be an all-pro. Where have you been? Like, this defensive line is supposed to be a strength, and they do not take over games the way we were told they were going to. What have you made of the play of the defensive line?
I'm with you. And Foley, too. I mean, If you look at PFF, he's always been, top 3, top 5 in run stopping at IDL, and he's down the list this year. I understand it's a scheme change. He's playing more of a 2-eye outside instead of right over the nose or in a 1-tech. So that's part of it. And the scheme's part of it too. Saleh, it's a attacking 1-gap 4-3 filling defense. And if you're too aggressive in this defense, offensive coordinators take advantage of it. They run counters, they run draws, they do everything they can in longer developing plays to use your aggressiveness against you. I don't think Saleh adjusts, and I don't think the defensive line has enough awareness to say, okay, what is this offense trying to do to us? Are they using our aggressiveness against us? It's an in-between-the-ears thing right now, and that awareness just simply isn't there, and that goes on the D-line as well. And John Franklin Myers will say this one thing in his defense. He's a big guy, and you don't want him playing on the edge every play, yet he has to because of the injuries. So that's the one thing that goes in his defense, but still, he's got to be more productive than what we've seen.
Another thing that drives me crazy, and I suspect it drives the audience that's watching this video crazy, the discipline on this team. Feels like Gase or Bowles are still coaching this team right now. 9 penalties yesterday for 69 yards, including 3 holding calls on offense. Robbie, talk me off the ledge here. What is going on with this team continuing to shoot themselves in the foot with the penalties? How about the delay of game penalty when they're going for it on 4th and 1? Are you giving? I mean, give me a break.
I was just gonna say you're on the ledge. I won't bring up the delay of game then, because that was, I mean, what was it, 17-3 at that point
Yeah.
when the delay game happened? Yeah. So you want momentum. I don't know. It's just sloppiness, not buttoned up, accountability. I can't walk you off the ledge. All I could do is shout from a distance and say, "Hey, don't do it. Just don't jump."
It's It's brutal. Absolutely brutal. All right, how about we try and end on a couple of positives here from this game yesterday. There weren't many, but if we're going to look at a couple guys that deserve some praise, I would say one of them was Michael Carter. He looks like a legitimate player for this team. What did you make of him? I think he had around 82 total scrimmage yards yesterday. He continues to play well in what has been obviously a very frustrating season for the Jet fan.
Yeah, Michael Carter could do it all. And, he could catch it out of the backfield. He could run in between the tackles. He could take the wide zone. He really could do it all. I love his balance. I love how he stays square to contact. He's great in terms of after contact. He's a really good one. And again, Elijah Moore. I love Elijah Moore too. This team is not without talent. That's the thing. I thought they were severely lacking talent in the Gase era, and that's not making excuses for Gase. I just thought that's the way it was. They have more talent now, so that's why I'm harping on the coaching so much. Carter, Elijah Moore, even Hall was pretty good yesterday, other than the run defense mishaps on the edge. Who else? Who else are you thinking of?
I was going to say Elijah Moore. Like, I will say this, at least the 2021 draft class for Douglas looks like it has some legitimate players in it. Like, obviously, so much of it's going to come down to is Zach Wilson any good? And we'll find that out over the next couple seasons here. Hopefully he plays the last 8 games and looks good down the stretch. But AVT looks like a real stud. He continues to play well. Obviously, Carter and Moore look like real players for this team. So at least Douglas's 2021 class looks pretty good. I would hope Mekhi Becton comes back soon and plays well down the stretch as well, just so we could point to that from the 2020 class. But, I mean, make no mistake about it, the Jets have 7 picks in the first 4 rounds. They got to hit on most of them, and obviously a lot of those picks probably are now going to be on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and the one thing with Douglas, I'm hammering Saleh and the coaching staff, but the one thing with Douglas that he has to stand up for here is I feel like even though he understands football and he understands how to build it the proper way and he understands the salary cap beautifully, I feel like he's picked too much talent without enough regard for football instincts, awareness. Ashton Davis, athletic kid, hard worker, but when he's playing free safety back there, his instincts just aren't there. Corey Davis, I don't know about the instincts. Jared Davis, the instincts. I'm talking about free agency now, but still, it goes to the same point. So that's something to look for moving forward. Will he scale it back in terms of talent only and start thinking about more of a blend where, yeah, I want talent, but I also want football players whose awareness and instincts they can't be disputed.
Let's look ahead the next week. Your early thoughts on the Dolphins? I mean, it's at MetLife. Obviously, Miami's coming in off a great win over the Baltimore Ravens. That was like their version of the Jets win over the Titans or the Jets win over the Bengals. But the Miami Dolphins do have a pretty good defense, at least on paper they do. What do you make of the Dolphins coming to MetLife this week?
I want to say it's going to be a competitive game, but there's just no way you could say that. Even with the Dolphins coming off a win, as of late this season, I feel like the majority of matchups are against teams who are angry, who are coming off of losses, bad losses. The Bills with Jacksonville, for example. So this will reverse it a little bit. Miami gets 10 days off with Thursday night. We'll see. I mean, it could be a competitive game. We'll have to see what happens at quarterback. But at this point with the Jets, it's a sad state of affairs because the most important thing is in-house and fixing the simple fundamental things. And is 7 days enough to, draw enough attention to that? I just don't know.
Zach Wilson plays Sunday?
I think so because he was playing the show team, the scout team during practice, pretty much 100% last week. I think Wilson will get the start.
I actually did like the fact that they didn't put him on IR with the intention to have him practice for 2 weeks before he gets to come back. I actually think we get on the Jets for a lot. I actually think that's a smart decision that they made.
Yeah, I agree. It was a smart decision for sure.
Robby, tell people where they could find more of your excellent content covering the Jets.
Just head on over to jetsxfactor.com. You'll find me, Michael Nania, Joe Blewett, and a host of others. We'll be breaking down a lot of the film this week. It will be another week-long therapy session.
Not exactly the best film to be breaking down, but someone's got to do it, and that's why I love going to Jets X Factor.
Yeah, I mean, someone's got to do it, and Dr. Melfi is unavailable.
Thanks to everyone who took time to watch this video. Do me a favor, if you're new, please subscribe. We're trying to grow this channel. We're over 8,000 subs. Next stop, 9,000, and then 10,000 as we continue the rise here on YouTube. You can like this video down below. If you're watching live, thumbs up icon right down there. Click it, like it, helps the channel continue to grow. And please comment your thoughts after the video on how you're feeling, Jet fans, after a disgusting loss at home yesterday at MetLife Stadium. He's Robby Sabo. My name is Jake Asman. This has been the Jake Asman Show for a Monday. Enjoy your Monday, Jet fans. Hang in there. Back with more content throughout the week. See ya.